Hey, how's it going everybody? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we are looking at the GARGAN Venom. This is the Venom with the scorpion tail, obviously. He does use a lot of the same parts as the Spider-Man Classics Venom, but he does have a lot of his unique parts as well, and actually a little bit less articulation. So what this guy does better is kind of counterbalanced by what they kind of took away from him. But he's still a really cool Venom figure, and if you are a fan of the GARGAN Venom, by all means get it. You won't be too disappointed. Alright, let's take a look at the height. He's a little hunched over. The torso, you can't do much about it, but if we straighten out the legs, he stands about 7 inches tall to the top of his head. As you can see though, the neck shoots out forward due to that sculpt to give him that kind of more hunched over back, and he's really overdeveloped muscles up here. So you can't do much about the height there, and you'll probably want to keep him in kind of a more hunched over position. But the sculpt work on this guy is great. He's got great musculature. Everything looks really organic. You've got veins popping out all over the place. Lots of little muscle ripples. It just looks really awesome. The hands are done very, very well. The head is done really well. The teeth, the eyes, the tongue, the wrinkles. Everything looks great. The scorpion tail, loaded with detail. Really, really cool figure. This does pop off, by the way, if you don't want to use it. It leaves a horribly ugly hole in the back, but it does come off. While we have it here, we can look at the Venom logo. It's really well done. There's a little bleeding here and there, but the line work is great. It looks just the way it's supposed to. I like that a lot about this figure. Throughout the black, we have this kind of bluish purple shading, some in a little bit heavier than other places, and it's not really ideal. Like there's a whole bunch right here, but then none right here. So it's one of those cases where machine airbrushing isn't the most effective, but it's alright. It's not horrible. As far as articulation goes, the tail, each joint has a swivel hinge, so it has that hinge there, and it'll swivel where it connects, but only on one of the ends. It doesn't swivel on both ends. But that's still okay. It's probably effective enough for nice posing. The head, not the best articulation just because of the way the neck sticks forward. He can only look up that far and then look down. He does swivel from side to side, of course. The tongue is permanently in there, but it's sculpted pretty well, and I like the way they painted it. The shoulders are ball hinges that actually the design itself, it's really stiff. The design itself looks really good. It looks really like anatomically accurate, but there's no bicep swivel, and it is somewhat limited by the sculpt. So it's not ideal, but it is really good. Once you get him posed, you're not gonna even worry about it. It looks really good once he's posed. I would have loved a bicep swivel though, because we don't even have the one that comes in the elbow, and we don't have the one in the bicep, so that's disappointing. He could have been posed a lot better had he had that. We do get 90 degrees out of the single elbow joint though. We have a swivel in the wrist and a hinge. And like I mentioned, these hands are sculpted really, really well. They would have been awesome on the other Venom, which I'll talk about that in his review, but they fit this character perfectly, so that's really good. We have this diaphragm joint. Instead of an ab crunch, he leans back with it, but he doesn't really lean too far forward, so that's a little strange. Leaning side to side, not an option, so he only has this and the swivel. So that's a little bit odd that there's no side to side motion. And then the torso, the upper part of the lower torso doesn't have any sculpt work in there at all. It's just smooth. So that's another kind of oddity that they might have been able to do a little bit better. We do have a waist swivel as well. I don't know why we need both, but whatever. We do have hips, or hip articulation, but it's really not good. They're almost completely vertical, so it's like a Y hinge but worse, and there's no thigh swivel. So really all you're going to be able to do is that. If you turn the legs to the side, you can't rotate them to put them in like a splits pose. So it's really, really limited, and that's the worst thing about this figure is the way they did the hips. So it's disappointing. However, if you get him just in the regular stance, you know, just like this, and just pose him from the waist up, it's going to be effective enough because he's such a cool looking figure otherwise. So I can overlook it on this guy just because the rest is done fairly well, but that hip articulation really kills the figure. Double jointed knees, ankle pivot, no ankle rocker on this guy. He's actually from, I think, the cheaper line, so he's missing a little bit of the articulation despite the really nice sculpts. So it's not ideal that he's missing that articulation, but the rest of the figure I think makes up for it, and he looks really, really cool.
So I do recommend him, even though he has a few flaws.
Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for more figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.